Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I was worried that you couldn't see me or hear me because I was looking at my little screen and it was like kind of whited out, kind of like
Oh,
white.
yeah. No,
So,
no, no. I got you. I got you.
okay, great.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect.
And it's great to meet you. Great to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you too.
Yes. So I'm gonna go.
Is this okay for a background? And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're good. You're
okay,
good. Yeah, you're
okay.
good. Take your mind into the wonderful world of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kennetic Hour. Conversations with you and guests. With your host, Kenan Wesley Mason. All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Kennetic Hour. I am your host, Kenan Wesley Mason. Welcome one, welcome all. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kennetic Hour. As always, we are streaming live on Instagram, streaming live on Facebook, and streaming live on LinkedIn. So, welcome to all three platforms. As always, go to my YouTube channels and subscribe. The first, as always, right here, the Kennetic Hour, and that is Kennetic, the Kennetic Hour. And also my other YouTube channel, which is Kennetic Fit and Wellness Info, Kennetic Fit and Wellness Info for everything physical health, mental health, emotional, spiritual, and everything in between. And also go to my Rumble channel as well. My Rumble channel, same thing, the Kennetic Hour. Subscribe, tell everyone that you know to subscribe, leave your comments, click the notifications, tell everyone that you know to leave comments regarding the comments. And it's always great to have everyone listening and watching. As I always say, whether it's one person or 1,000 people watching, my voice will continue to permeate. So thank you all for tuning in to the Kennetic Hour. And as you can see, I have a guest today. My guest, and I'm glad she's here. I'm just going to read this because this is really good. She's a certified wellness coach who expertly crafts her client counsel with attention to the traditional and practical needs of the business environment, balanced with the conscious awareness of the need for professional development and personal growth. Quality of life and well being is always her top goal for her clients. She serves associates on all rank about growth and expansion from new hires to CEOs. Originally in the fields of architecture and design, her practice has now expanded to apply these principles of balance to serve all intergenerational business environments, as well as in the growing demand for her guidance in personal transformation arenas. Her path to continued improvement has been one of delight and focus as she continually adds to her expertise with training and certificates such as the Yale Science of Wellbeing, Transformational Life Coaching, Intergenerational Facilitation. She is a Be Well, Lead Well certified guide, author of the industry's first wellness toolkit for architects and designers, a sought after professional speaker in the area of design thinking applied to total well being, and she's the founder of Wellbeing by Design to empower professionals to design their lives and work within their parameters to thrive. Her interactive workshops have been well received by brands and organizations like Sherwin-Williams, Monogram Appliances, Neocon, and the International Well Building Institute, of which she's an accredited professional and faculty member. Let's welcome to the Kennetic Hour, Megan Mazzocco, Megan, thank
Hi.
you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to be here. And thank you for sharing your audience with me this afternoon.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here on the Kennetic Hour. When you first contacted me in your initial email, you said you had a juicy, multi layered story uh, and about your family and origins and highly intellectualized academic upbringing with your mystery illness. So, if you can, let's go to the beginning and just kind of give us a background of how you started or how you got started in this journey of going from architecture and design to well-being by design.
Exactly. Um, well, it's kind of, I don't know where to start except for in the thick of the architecture and design industry. And some people, including my speaking partner on Architects as Healers, Buildings as Medicine, Angela Mazzi, we call it the culture of architecture.
Okay.
And so sometimes that can be a toxic culture of overwork, undersleep, and burnout. And even though I wasn't working for a firm myself, I was in the industry and I was surrounded by architects and designers and journalists who were working across time zones.
Mm. Hmm.
And I would tell myself, and this was at the time I also had two small children, and I was working from home after I had my second. So basically, what that meant was I was parenting and running the household during the day and working all night. And I
Mm.
told myself that I could sleep on business trips. But like I said, even then, we were working across time zones
Yeah.
to meet deadlines.
Yeah.
And one time I was at a reception in Chicago and I glanced across the room just in time to see an architect friend of mine collapse of exhaustion. And I thought to myself, and this is how you get into these mental prisons, I must not be working hard enough.
Mm. Right. Right. That's right. Yeah. A lot of people think that, that they have to stay up 24 hours a day. You go to bed late, wake up early, and then you stay up for hours and hours and hours and hours thinking that that's the way, and not actually taking care of self in the process. And
Right.
then burnout does happen.
Yeah.
um now what was the mystery illness that you were diagnosed with?
So when I thought that I was immune to burnout because, I was like Dunkin' Donuts, Megan runs on Dunkin',
Right. Right.
not on the coffee, not on the donuts.
Yeah.
But yes, the curtain call finally came on my caffeine fueled career one day in the emergency room because I had gotten to the point, like, I had had brain fog. I had felt like bugs were crawling up my legs. My top of my legs were going numb. And funny enough that you have lava lamps behind you,
That's right.
because
I read that.
I had lava lamp like fluid collecting between my skin and my organs.
Yeah.
And when I would turn from side to side, I would show the doctors, like, look at this. It looks just like a lava lamp. My belly's
Right.
behaving like a lava lamp.
Yeah.
And they sent me home. They said they did all these tests. They said, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. Just don't eat so much salt. And funny
Okay.
enough, my architect friend who had collapsed of exhaustion, the doctors also told her, you're fine, just stay hydrated. And it turns out that both of us were suffering from severe sleep deprivation.
Hmm.
In my case, my symptoms were exacerbated by undiagnosed Lyme's disease.
Got it.
And not
Got it.
everybody who gets bit by a tick remembers. I
Right.
did not. And not everybody who gets bit by a tick gets Lyme's disease. But
Right.
when your immune system is suppressed due to lack of sleep and consistent chronic sleep deprivation, you cannot fight that bacteria.
Right. That's
And
right.
yeah, so it took a year and a half for a Lyme literate doctor to diagnose me. And when he did, he prescribed me medication, meditation, and sleep.
Okay.
And being a recovering type A perfectionistic patient,
Yeah.
I dove into everything like sleep research.
Hmm.
And I hired a Buddhist monk
Okay.
because I
Okay.
needed to learn
Okay.
how to meditate because
Right.
meditation is anti-inflammatory in its nature. And then all the research that I did on sleep, I'm like, why
Yeah.
didn't the doctors ask us about how we were sleeping?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's actually just a shame that um, in medical school, doctors don't get highly educated on the importance of sleep when sleep is actually the number one predictor of health outcomes and not just physical health, but mental health as well.
Mental health. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when we hear the term brain fog, or it can create brain fog, the lack of sleep. I remember the late Dick Gregory. He used to say that there's three things that create illness that you rarely hear of. One is dehydration or lack of water. The other is lack of exercise or getting proper oxygen into the cells. And the third, he said, was sleep deprivation. The third was sleep deprivation. And I was like, wow, these are three major symptoms that we rarely ever hear about in the mainstream, especially sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
Um, I want to put something on the. I'm going to put something on the screen here because you had something on your on your website, and I'm going to read this here, and you can tell me if you see it. There it is, right there.
Mhm.
So we have right here. It says, uh, let's see, where is it? Perfecting your sleep is critical because sleep is the number one predictor of physical and mental health, like you just said, and essential to learning and creativity outcomes. Lack of sleep, poor sleep, and sleep deprivation cause inflammation, anxiety that can lead to depression and cognitive decline. In fact, the World Health Organization has declared sleep deprivation an epidemic in industrialized nations and recognized second and third shifts, meaning typically graveyard shift or swing shift workers, work as a known carcinogen, which a lot of people need to take heed to. Sleep deprivation being a carcinogen for its direct correlation in increased instances of anxiety, depression, cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. And then at the bottom, it says the shorter you sleep, the shorter your lifespan. Lack of restorative sleep is a guaranteed health disaster. So when I saw that, um, it made me think twice because I'm guilty of just that. I think many of us are guilty of lack of sleep at some point in our lives.
Mhm.
Um, what do you say? What do you say is one of the, or maybe more than one of the major reasons for sleep deprivation?
Over the last 100 years, the number of hours that people sleep has declined, and steadily and steeply after electricity, and now after these
Cell
devices.
phone. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So a lot of the blue-green light that we're getting from the screens are shutting off our melatonin production. And
Mm,
so that is another thing that is keeping people up. Also, there's an addiction, a dopamine addiction to these devices, right? It's an easy hit. So
that's
that's
right.
why people stay up doing what's called death scrolling or doom scrolling.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's what it's doing. It's slowly eroding your health. And so I believe that we're sleeping less because we have these devices and we have these addictions to these devices, and we are uneducated
yeah,
about the importance of sleep, and it not only erodes your physical health, but it erodes your mental health, and it leads to poor cognitive health outcomes. And it's immediate. It's the next day,
yeah,
right? Where
yeah.
your immune system is lowered, your bioendocrine markers are lowered, and your ability to focus and concentrate and learn and creative problem solve are flattened. And then over a long time of chronic sleep deprivation, this can lead to poor cognitive health outcomes like Alzheimer's. And the reason why sleep is a biological imperative is because what the process that happens when you sleep, that can only happen when you are sleeping, is your brain cells shrink. This is the glymphatic system that is coming into the hallways of your brain with cerebral spinal fluid and washing away any neurotoxins and plaques that are associated with these cognitive health declines.
Mm,
Um, I'm not sure why else people aren't sleeping. I know there's a high level of anxiety um, due to what's happening, and I think there's a lack of information around how to self-soothe or self-regulate, and
yeah.
and I think that is also a beneficial skill that we should be teaching in schools.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
because
Definitely.
this is a cycle that perpetuates itself, right? If you have high anxiety, it's harder to sleep. If you don't sleep, it raises your norepinephrine, which
Mm,
increases your blood sugar, increases your blood pressure, and increases your heart rate. So the very next day, you automatically have what's considered false anxiety because it's due to sleep deprivation. It could be easily remediated, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
your body is just searching for what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, because something's off. And this can come from sleep deprivation, but as you probably know, it can also come from food additives that are unnatural and cannot be metabolized by the body. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of things in our environment that could be causing what Dr. Ellen Vora refers to as false anxiety in her book, The Anatomy of Anxiety.
Mm,
So I think there's just a big lack of information. And the other part of the anxiety is that it also erodes your ability to have relationships and to perform and interact in a relational space with a clear mind, with authenticity, with the patience to respond instead of react. And it's actually our communities and our relationship and practicing well-being in relationship that really adds to our quality of life and our longevity and our health spans. And
hmm.
so when we don't have these communities or these close ties or human connection, we are not sleeping well. When I had the Wellbeing by Design Global Vitality Circle, my members would say on days that we all met that they would sleep better at night. So
Hmm.
people who do get physical movement, who are in community, and who do things that they enjoy during the day tend to sleep better. And so it's kind of, again, it's kind of a vicious cycle that can perpetuate if you do not bring intention to your circadian health, or the fact that your body is on a 24-hour system or clock.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's why I like to bring the design thinking into circadian health and sleep and well being, because, again, it's multi layered and it's a system. So all the pieces and all the strings, interact and connect with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. They do. You know, and to that, when children are young, when they're in school, some schools have children take naps during the day, so they can remain refreshed, so their minds can remain, I guess, at the highest frequency possible during their school hours. Um, would it be uh, should we consider doing the same as adults, taking naps during the day? Is that something that can be kind of added to our daily regimen?
Absolutely, absolutely. And all of these cutting edge Silicon Valley companies and startups and athletic, very performance based companies and corporations do have a nap culture, and they have napping pods. And besides napping, there are 7 different kinds of rest that we actually need. But before I tell you about that, I really want
Yeah.
to talk about napping, because there's 2 different kinds of naps that I've run across. Well,
Okay.
I guess 3. So there is what is his first name? I want to say Matteo Francasetti, and he's the one who invented the 8 sleep mattress, which it
Mm,
uses machine learning to determine what temperature you sleep and you get the most optimal deep rest in, and
right.
then it keeps the mattress at that temperature. But he invented, or told me about, the espresso nap, which is he shoots espresso and then goes to sleep, and in about 20 minutes it wakes him up,
Mm,
and he has felt rested and refreshed and gets the jolt of the espresso. Then there is the NASA nap, which of course was studied by NASA for the purpose of its astronauts, who are, obviously, their circadian rhythms are confused.
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So a 26-minute nap will increase your alertness by 50% and your cognitive ability and performance, task performance, by 30%. So
Mhm.
that is a NASA nap. But there's new research out of the Sorbonne that says just 4 minutes longer, just a 30-minute nap, will actually restore your biomarkers of your endocrine system. That's where, like, your growth hormones and all the
Yeah.
hormones cascade from, and then also your immune system, to the levels of someone who did get a full night's rest.
Right.
So that is definitely recommendable for napping during the day, 100%. And even our professional athletes have their own sleep coaches. And it's not because they're professional sleeping, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're just aware of the fact that rest and recovery is as equally important to training, productivity, and achievement.
Absolutely.
And there's no reason why we shouldn't treat our bodies the same, because a lot of people use their brains all day. And pound for pound, your brain uses more energy than the rest of your physical body.
Hmm. Yeah, it
So,
does. It does. Um, and being an architect, or in any kind of design, it takes brain power to do just that. To be an architect, I mean, you really have to lay a different foundation in your brain to do that type of work. Um, and you mentioned the circadian rhythm. Most people, unfortunately, we don't even know that that exists. A circadian rhythm, like what the hell is that? you know, um, 24 hours in a day, and we kind of split it up into three parts. You work 8 hours, you go home and do whatever you do for 8 hours, and then you sleep for 8 hours. At least that's some people say that's the ideal format. Now, my question is, what is the ideal amount of sleep that we should get on the average? Because all my life, I've been hearing 8 hours of sleep. Some people say six, some people say five. What do you say?
It depends on the person, and most people need somewhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep,
Mm,
and women need more sleep than men.
okay.
And
Okay. Can you tell us some of the reasons why?
I am not sure of all the reasons why, except that our bodies are designed to do a lot more
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and also it depends on your chronotype when you want to go
Oh
to
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sleep to get an optimal night's rest. So some people are a night owl, which is fine, and some people are, an early bird. The important thing is to be consistent and to go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day and every night. And so for instance, if you're somebody who normally goes to sleep at 10 p.m., but you've stayed up late and you're going to bed at 12 p.m., you'll miss two of those most important hours
Yeah.
of your sleep cycle.
Yeah.
And so it's not important really, how long you sleep or when you go to sleep. It's just pay attention and notice how you feel. And that's another thing that I feel like technology is taking away from us, is really being embodied, being in our bodies, and noticing what is affecting us, what is affecting the way we feel, what's affecting um, our mental health and
Yeah.
our ability to focus and concentrate and learn and love and work and play. And so that's why I think physical movement is such a good idea every day, like you were saying.
Hmm.
And then also really taking the time to be still and
Be
be
still.
quiet
Yeah.
and listen.
Yeah.
Um, but really, it's the noticing and then the responding and the iteration of how are you fine tuning the way you feel so that you can show up as your best, most authentic self
Yeah.
in everyday life and relationships. And I think this is also connected to the loneliness crisis and the loneliness epidemic that we're experiencing. Because if you can't really be there when you're there and you're not showing up in a way that really lands and connects,
Hmm.
then you're not going to create quality relational spaces.
Yeah.
And the quality of our lives is the quality of our relationships. So
Absolutely.
we really owe it to ourselves. We deserve that human experience,
Yeah.
just to notice and respond and show up in a way that is enriching our lives and the lives of others.
Yeah. You mentioned just being present or being physically present, but also being cognitively present as well.
Right.
Because when you're in the physical space with other people and you're trying to interact, you have all these people here. We're coming here collectively for the same agenda, but one or two people haven't gotten enough sleep, and so they're kind of, just kind of dozing off a little bit. So,
Well, actually, can I tell you about how many people probably haven't gotten enough sleep? It's actually, according to the CDC, 1 in 3 adults is sleep deprived.
mm,
So we're walking around, like you said, trying to be good humans. And 30% of us are not well rested and not in our full mental capacities.
yeah.
And like 51% of adults say that they feel sleepy 3 to 7 days a week.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
how are we supposed to be moving through the world in a kind and coherent way when we're not even at the, full mark on our
Yeah.
tanks,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
The brain is not at full throttle. you know
right,
it's not
exactly.
at full throttle because we haven't gotten enough sleep. um, like I read earlier about people that work the swing shift or graveyard shift. Now for people that do have graveyard shifts and they stay awake all night but then they sleep during the day, um, are they still getting the equivalent amount of restoration as they would if they're sleeping at night, because their circadian rhythms are reversed now. So is sleeping during the day okay as well for people to get that kind of quality sleep?
Unfortunately, I don't think our bodies ever naturally respond the same way to sleeping during the day than sleeping at night.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, we like evolved to sleep in dark
Darkness.
caves
Right. Yeah.
and at the optimal temperature of 60 degrees
Okay.
Fahrenheit, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose if you had shutters and blackout curtains and it was cave-like environment, that you might be able to achieve close to optimal sleep. But for most people, that's not the case. Usually, I recommend sleeping with an eye mask.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the truth is that studies have shown that there is kind of a correlation, and not necessarily studies have proven causation, but between exposure to artificial light at night and some forms of cancers that have to do with the endocrine system.
Mm.
So I would just highly not recommend trying to sleep during the day, but if you
Yeah.
do have to, you really wanna make it a tight, dark, cool environment,
Yeah.
to sleep in. And, also remembering that besides sleeping and besides napping, that's only one form of rest. There's 6 other forms of rest that this doctor, Sandra, Dalton Smith has come up with, and
Yeah.
she noticed she was an, internal medicine physician and was working, like, 60-hour weeks and had 2 kids at home and experienced burnout, and then even when she did start getting enough rest in terms of physical passive sleep, she
Hmm.
was still tired and still exhausted. So she started to track um, what else could be draining her. And she realized that there were 7 different kinds of rest that we needed, including creative, sensory, social, and spiritual, and then emotional and mental rest,
Mm.
even. And
Hmm.
So I think we need to acknowledge that besides optimal restorative sleep, we also need all these different forms of rest. And it can look like a lot of different things. In terms of the mental rest, which is the second one after physical rest,
Yeah.
um, it's our ability to quiet the mind and to know that nothing is urgent. Like you're not being chased by that lion, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you can calm down even if you feel a perceived threat. You are okay. And so that's where the meditation comes in as being a really important mental hygiene practice, just like
Hmm.
dental hygiene.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
I think we should also be aware of our younger generations and the fact that 63% of young people experience significant symptoms of anxiety and depression. And 68% of millennials and 81% of Gen Zers have actually quit jobs for mental health
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
So this kind of rest and attention to mental well-being is so important um, going forward in an intergenerational setting, in a
Hmm.
multi-generational environment. um, yeah, we should all be very kind and very compassionate and very curious about what's happening for each other. And it could all just be sleep. It could just be a very simple conversation.
Yeah, it is simple, and healing hormones because of getting quality sleep. Healing takes place while you sleep.
Mhm.
Internal healing takes place while you sleep. Like you said, the melatonin is released from your brain. Other healing hormones. Um, I've heard that between for those that live here in this hemisphere, uh, 10 between 10 p.m. and 10 or 2 a.m. Is when you have the optimal release of hormones for healing of whatever your ailment might be at the time.
Mhm.
Um, whether it's whatever it is, doesn't matter. Rest rest is ideal for healing, and unfortunately most of us don't get enough rest to where we can heal internally. um, and then we go to the medications and everything else thinking that that's the answer, when, like you just said, it can be something so simple as just getting some quality sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting some quality sleep. Go ahead.
The um the next the third form of rest is
Yeah.
emotional rest.
Okay.
And you're talking about healing, right? And really feeling whole and healed. Besides sleep, it's also essential to have like that core relationship or that best friend or even your own internal resonating witness. um,
Hmm.
someone who says to you when you are out of sorts, of course you feel that way. Like
Hmm.
being truly seen and heard and asked about is so healing.
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
emotional rest. It's someone to kind of share our heaviness with, right? And
Hmm.
again, as relationships erode to not being mentally well, less and less of us have that person.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have not cultivated this kind metacognitive voice or this kind inner dialogue. A lot of it is very critical. So that's where emotional rest comes in as something that is a tool for healing.
Yeah. It is, and because a lot of people hold in their emotions, uh, of whatever it is. You have things going on in the home, you have workplace dilemmas, whatever it is, and you have no one to communicate that to. So all that energy kind of compresses
Mhm.
and starts to contract. And then people have the nervous breakdowns because they can't get that release, because communication is a release of energy. You're communicating your feelings and your emotions to someone else so they can give you some form of empathy or feedback
Yes, it's a resonance.
or
Yes.
resonance. Yes. Yeah.
Um, and here's the thing that we're seeing younger and younger, and in more of the gig economy and the entrepreneurial space, which is people choose that path professionally because they want to feel liberated, right?
Right.
Be your own boss. And then what's ending up happening a lot of the time is feeling isolated. So here again is an example of community. And one of the 7 forms of rest is actually social rest. So
Okay.
it's really taking a look at when you are in community, when you are in a relational space, how is that feeding you? Like,
Hmm.
how is that restoring you? Or is it draining? And
Right.
should you be aware and notice which social interactions and which social relationships, or even trying to fit in to a social group when you don't
Mm.
feel true belonging.
Yeah.
Notice when those things are draining you, because again, that will affect your your energy levels and your ability to sleep well later, 'cause otherwise, if it was awkward or uncomfortable or negative social interaction, you might be ruminating about something like that instead of going to sleep.
Going to sleep. Right. Is that where because you mentioned in your bio, I was reading on your website, you were complicit in over functioning and niceness and likability, in all forms. So is that an example of what you're talking about?
Yes, and it's, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, it's usually a type 2 helper, and that's the shadow side to being somebody who is programmed to do or to serve or to make in order to justify your existence. You
Mm,
tend to overgive, overfunction, overperform, and get into this shadow side of it where there is complete burnout, there is resentment because you're not engaging in relationships that have ease and reciprocity. You are just constantly giving, and therefore pouring from an empty cup, which you
yes.
can't do. So yeah, that's part of being a recovering type A perfectionist, who was socialized um a caregiver. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people do that to themselves. They give, 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 give because they've either grown up seeing these type of examples, or they feel that they have to overperform to get the approval of someone, or from a group of people, or their boss, or their parents, or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
And it does create the burnout. It
Yeah.
does create the burnout.
Mhm.
um, so let's talk about well-being by design. Now, tell us, what is well-being by design and why you created it?
So, Wellbeing by Design is my coaching practice. And I say it is when the inside is as beautiful as the outside. So really trying to align your inner goals and or your outer goals with your inner values. And when you have that alignment, you are in your center and you are grounded and you're pretty solid.
Hmm.
And a lot of people um, don't always have that. And it is an evidence based framework to design your life and work within your parameters to thrive. And so we go from, what is your outer goal and what is the inner value, or what is the inner value and what is the values aligned action that you will take to be able to express that in the world. Because when you're leading with the inner values, usually it leads to more fulfilling and meaningful work, life, interactions, relationships, etc. And the design part of it is, again, it's design thinking. So, for instance, the sleep system deconstructs unhealthy sleep habits and it reconstructs a healthy sleep hygiene. And so that's kind of how we go through systematically parts of your life that may not be um, optimal, and then take them apart and see, well, what's the blocks? And then how do we integrate those blocks in order to get where we want to be and reconstruct this part or this vision for our lives in the way that we see it.
Hmm.
And so that really takes a lot of mindfulness, a lot of noticing, and a lot of iteration between the inside and the outside, and getting those lined up. And everything, like I said, is thought about as a system. So
Right.
we see like how this one thing is connected to everything else. So if you get better at this one thing, if you shift, this mindset or this emotional trauma or trigger that's been a block, that's been constricting your choices, and your decisions and your actions, then it opens up the rest of your thoughts and decisions and actions for infinite possibilities to everything that's around you. And once you start to see and notice more, you'll start to tune in to things that are patterns that are showing up, or ideas that are showing up repeatedly or consistently, and taking that as information and as a nudge from the universe. Oh, this makes me happy every time. Like maybe
Hmm.
I should be doing something that's more like this, or like this, I get scared every time. So let's go into that fear and really
Right.
embrace it, notice it, and then let it, thank it and let it dissipate. So it also gets embraced and then integrated, and it tends to move out of the way. So, yeah, it's kind of like the system is deconstructing the blocks, noticing them, and
Hmm.
then integrating the blocks so it becomes a fulcrum.
Right. Right. And like you said, it's a system, so everything kind of falls into place step by step by step by step.
Mhm,
And once you get one thing in order, it usually sets the tone for everything else to place itself in order,
mhm,
because everything is connected in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So when you get yourself in order internally, like you said earlier, it resonates, and then everybody else tends to become in order with you. Like you said, the relationships, like attracts like. So if you're in order, then you're going to attract and resonate with other people that want to get themselves in order too.
mhm.
So it all makes sense. Um, I'm going to go here because you have something that I thought was great. Again, going back to your website, because it's a bunch of great stuff there. I'm going to pull this up here because you had something called the vitality codes.
Mhm.
But what I wanted to focus on more so as we go up, we're going to go right here to the peak performance principles. And I'm just gonna, we can just go over a few, and you can elaborate on them. Say yes to what energizes you, which you kind of touched on just now. But right here, the next one, honor your body. Now, why should people honor? Because honor is a big word. Why should people honor their body?
People should honor their body because if you don't have health, you don't have anything.
Mm,
The
mm,
only the only thing you want when you're sick or when your arm is broken or your leg is broken, you just want to be able to have the vitality that you had before you got sick. So that is why you should honor your body, only use medium effort, always take the middle path. And so that means that like this statement and this practice changes throughout your whole life, right?
yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of young athletes are pushed beyond the point of honoring their body, and the thought process is, "Oh, you're young, you can repair. You know,
Mm-hmm.
your body is fine for that."
Yeah.
Um, but we cannot do that.
As athletes, yeah, we have to
It's
the
not
equal. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it's not sustainable. Right?
Right. Right.
So, number 1, you do have to honor your body. You do have to honor your pain thresholds because l learning that learning to ignore that is setting you up for failure because it is not a sustainable practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is why it's important to honor your body. Your body is your vehicle through moving through the world. And it changes. Your body is a verb, it's not a noun.
Ha,
So,
right, right. It's always in action. It's always moving, 24 hours a day,
yeah,
even
yeah,
when you're sleeping.
and your cells are always, dying and renewing and regenerating. So, like, your body is not ever the same from moment to moment. Um,
Right.
so
Yeah.
so that's
Moment to
why
moment.
we should honor our bodies. It's yeah, it's kind of like a sacred space, and you want to think of your behavior or your performance or what you have as your intention for your physical movement kind of as and worshiping on the altar of the body,
Mm.
and make those habits sustainable and make them kind and make them, yeah, in a way that you're really showing care for your physical vehicle.
Right. Yeah. I've heard from many people that the your body is your temple, and going back to what I was saying about the athletes, they put in so much physical work, but when it comes to the recovery and rest, they only do half of that portion. Um, and as far as nutrition is concerned, they only do half of that as well. So they're not completely honoring the body in that sense. They do all the physical, but as far as the rest and recovery, they don't do that in its entirety. And then their bodies break down. Some athletes in their careers early because of early injuries, early injuries that can't recover as quickly because their bodies, they don't put their bodies in a state of rest enough, or like you said, just sit and just be quiet for a few hours.
Mhm.
you know so the next one we'll go to is the gift is in the wound.
Yeah.
So the gift is in the wound. So what is the gift and what is the wound?
So the gift is coming out the other side and having this expanded consciousness around what it is that was the wound. The wound is usually a trigger, And triggers are our teachers if
Mm.
we allow to learn the lesson. If we don't, the lesson keeps coming from the universe stronger and
Mhm, mhm.
stronger and
Yep,
stronger.
yep.
Um, so one of the things that I really like to do for myself and when I'm working with my clients is the Byron Katie's The Work. And she has a 99-cent app that's called The Work. And what we can do is do this like mental aikido of our triggers and kind of turn it around on ourselves and be like, oh, um, I guess that's like about an unhealed part in me that
Yep.
I'm shooting all over this other person. They
Mm.
should have done this, you know, they should, whatever. And so when you can really see that, when you can really see yourself fully and what is unhealed and what needs to be given attention, it is a gift because not only do you heal that in yourself, you're able to hold space and have compassion for other people who may not have learned that about themselves yet.
Mhm.
So it makes your body and mind um, a more inhabitable place and a more just a delightful and stable and joyful place to be.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of the time, like I know I chose like a really tough soul contract and I had a lot of wounding that needed to be examined in this life.
Mm.
And it's all been a gift. And I don't know if you sometimes what's meant to you flows to you with ease, but what's meant for you does not always feel good. But it's coming for a reason. It's coming to be a teacher. And
Right.
and that I think is why the gift is in the wound. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the positivity comes through the adversity. Um, some people look at adversity as, some people look at adversity as an ultimate negative, versus looking at the adversity and seeing how can they change it, or how can they make it better, or reverse it, and create the gift within the adversity, or in this case, the wound.
Mhm.
And we can come out on top, uh, once we learn that the adversity is, especially when it happens over and over and over again. We get into these habits that we see what the outcomes are, what the results are, but we continue to do it because now we've turned it into a habit,
Right.
the habits of the negative or the habits of the adversity, and they keep bringing the same results. So reversing that, or learning to reverse it, as you've been stating all along, you can create your gifts. You can create your gifts.
Mhm. I guess that's kind of goes back to that old expression, like, what do you do when life gives you lemons? You make lemonade.
You make lemonade. That's right. You make
And
lemonade.
I do not advocate toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing.
Mm.
Like when you do the work to go deep into the wound, you really um, feel it to heal it, right? And
Feel it to heal it. Okay.
it's it's this compassionate curiosity and investigation that needs to happen, rather than just brushing it off and being like, oh, everything happens for a reason, and not really going under the hood. And
Right. Going under the hood to see what needs to be fixed
yeah,
with yourself, not with anybody else, because too many people try to fix everyone else and talk about their problems, and they want to fix other people and tell them what they're doing in their lives. But we have to be proactive with ourselves, and take the initiative to make the change, which goes to these, and I'll just go over a couple of more. Don't take life personally, and life happens for you.
Yeah.
Talk about those two real quick.
So when I say don't take life personally, it means that no matter what you're going through, somebody else on this earth sphere is going through a similar
Right.
thing. And yeah, a lot of the times we do, um, in our despair, um, isolate ourselves and
Mm,
other ourselves when really there are many other people alive and going through the same experience. So even though you can't see them or you don't know them personally, just know that you are in a shared human existence and a shared human experience. And that's why I say don't take life personally. But then at the same time, life is happening for you and it is all a gift and it is all
right.
sacred. So when we can see that, it puts us in this more compassionate and curious frame of mind in order to think and investigate and notice, well, why is this happening? How can I take personal responsibility in what has been created?
Yeah.
And a lot the thing that you were talking about before is other people trying to fix other people's problems. So that's what's known as the righting reflex. And it's when you really can't sit in the discomfort of somebody else's situation and you want
Mm,
to fix it for them just to make yourself feel better. And that
right.
creates what's called the drama triangle, right? Where there is a victim, then there's a hero, and then there's a perpetrator.
Yeah.
And that can shift that dynamic. Like anyone can play any of those three roles, but whatever is going on, it's always an unhealthy dynamic. And
Mm.
so the thing that I like about explaining what yoga is, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
a lot of people just because I'm a certified yoga instructor, a lot of
Yeah.
people think it's gymnastics or it's stretching or it's like too hard or it's, it's a workout. It's not. It is the ability to sit in discomfort. So, asana, or like putting yourself into a yoga pose,
Mm,
is for the purpose of putting yourself in slight discomfort and then breathing through it for 90 seconds. And if you can breathe through that discomfort or that awkwardness for 90 seconds, it will tell your nervous system that you are okay. So a demonstration that I like to do is if you fold your hands and then you uncross your fingers and you do it the wrong way. So the wrong thumb is on top and it kind of feels gross or yuck or uncomfortable. But if
mm.
you just stick with it and take in about three deep full inhales and exhale fully,
Hmm.
after about 90 seconds, your your brain will finally stop fixating on the discomfort.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Now, and I'm glad you mentioned yoga because I was going to ask you about that. As we as because we got a few more minutes. I want to ask you about youthful by design and
sure.
why and how yoga. What effects does yoga? Because I've gone to a couple of yoga classes with my sister,
Uh-huh.
and I found out real quick how not so flexible I was. you know,
Well,
so so
it
can you talk about how we can remain youthful as possible through yoga being one of those practices?
absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Sarah Gottfried, and she has said that the practice of yoga is more effective than the standard of care for most chronic diseases.
Mm. Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, so the ability to sit in discomfort and notice for 90 seconds, and this is while you're honoring your body and while you're only using medium effort, right? Because
Yeah.
we don't, even in perfect alignment, we don't want injury. And
Right.
so the ability to do that and calm the nervous system has an anti-inflammatory effect, which
Mm.
is why yoga is so health inducing in health generating of a
Yeah.
practice. And another part of yoga is when you're putting this kind of pressure and stress on your bones in a I'm losing the word right now. It's in a static way.
Okay.
Um, you're actually stimulating the bone marrow and the cells in the bone marrow, which are keeping the stem cells, which are keeping you youthful and healthy. And
Right.
it's strengthening the bones and it's strengthening the joints. We are setting ourselves up for healthy longevity
Mm.
when we're doing a yoga practice that honors our body at the age and stage of life that we're at, because you're stimulating muscle, you're stimulating bone, and you're staying in balance. And we know that as we age, the risk for falling increases.
Oh
And
yeah.
so that's another reason why yoga is so good at keeping us youthful and vital and at home and comfortable and flexible in our bodies, because it strengthens and it lengthens, and yeah, there's so many benefits, and also calming the nervous system, soothing the nervous system, bringing attention to the breath, slowing down. I
Yeah.
mean, just that
Yeah. Yeah.
has anti-inflammatory and very restorative effects on the body and the mind. So,
So many of us are in fight or flight more than half of the day. So doing this, you're right, it does kind of calm the entire body, or it allows the body to become calm. As we see some people right here in yoga position. I don't. Is this you right here in the yoga pose? Uh,
I'm all the way in the back,
oh,
and this is a Masoga class
okay.
where my friend Yancy is at Casa Alternavida in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico, and
I read about that.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so we were doing this Masoga class where you are in restorative yoga, asana or positions with props. So you're completely relaxed, and then they come and they do some body work on you. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's a fantastic and even more restorative experience
Yeah.
than just your typical yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see here, here in the corner here, all this good food being prepared. A lot
Mhm.
of people don't realize that cooking is a form of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And can you speak on how important nutrition is in conjunction with better sleep patterns?
Right. So it's like sleep and then movement and then nutrition that are so important. And we really have to move away from the SAD diet, the standard American
Oh
diet,
gosh, don't even get
with,
me started on that.
I know, right? And then what you were saying about cooking,
Yeah.
um, besides the fact that your hands are an extension of your heart.
Hmm.
So when you say like this was made with love,
Yeah.
that's really the true intention of cooking a meal and breaking bread together. It's that communion, that community. So we're not only nourishing our bodies with the actual nutrients from the food, we're nourishing our souls by
Yeah.
being in community and really eating something that was lovingly prepared. So
Mm.
it's really important to bring mindfulness to food, to meals, and especially gratitude. So, you know, if we can have access to fresh produce, and if we can, prepare a beautiful meal at home that has like every food group in it, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
And we
Absolutely.
and in recognizing that and honoring that and blessing your food before you ingest it, you're actually changing the molecular structure. And we know this because of the intention experiments that have been done by Lynn McTaggart and Bruce Lipton, and even there's a Japanese scientist who has done this on water. And
Oh,
when
yeah.
you
Dr. Emoto. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you send the intention of this love and this gratitude, it changes the molecular structure of the food, because what is it? It's mostly water. And
Mm-hmm.
so is your body.
Yep.
And it's just such a simple little ritual, like 20 seconds. A ritual can be 20 seconds, but it really, really is important when it comes to feeding and nourishing your soul and your cells, right? So
And
you're
your cells. Right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and it's so simple. And so it's like, why not? Why not?
Yeah. You have nutrition and
Yeah.
epinutrition. Now, real quick, can you explain what that exactly is?
Yeah. So, Dr. Kara Fitzgerald is this brilliant functional medicine practitioner. And her book, Younger You, talks about the top 12 epinutrient foods, which means they help with our DNA methylation and our ability for our mitochondria and our cells at a cellular level to perform optimally.
Yeah.
And so it's really exciting to just learn a little bit about epinutrients and start incorporating them into your regular produce. So, for instance, broccoli and shiitake mushrooms and green tea, which is what I'm drinking
Yeah. There you
right
go. There you go.
now, rosmarium. I'm trying to think, wild blueberries, boreal blueberries, like the little ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Some
and then,
people do matcha as well.
mhm, yeah,
Matcha. Yeah.
yeah,
I heard
and
that that's good for along with green tea is good for raising your metabolism.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And let me think, what are some of the other ones? So liver, I know some people don't like liver, but liver is an epinutrient. You also have to make sure you're getting organic liver, because it
Yeah.
is an organ that skims out the toxins in that have been ingested. So yeah, make sure if you are eating liver that you're getting organic liver, but it is such a boost. And then just lean protein, especially the smash fish. So you got salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Yeah, those are the smash fish. I'm trying to think what else do I.
A lot of people sleep on sardines. I used to eat them when I was younger. And when I was in my 20s, I used to eat sardines a lot. I haven't eaten them in a while. Because again, some people don't like the taste and how they look when you open the can, But and for those that aren't really attracted to liver, because I know you had supplementation as well on that list. Cod liver oil. You can go old school. Cod liver oil can be something to be considered as well.
Mhm, mhm.
So we can go that route as far as supplementation or getting the good nutrition
Yeah, and
into the cells.
turmeric and black pepper and boswellia, like those are all really healthy anti-inflammatories that you can incorporate.
Mm. Yeah, and all those are great. All those are great. As we wrap up here, Megan, I want to thank you for taking the time out for coming on the Kinetic Hour. It's greatly appreciated. Tell everyone where we can find you.
Well, you can find me on Google at Wellbeing X Design,
Okay.
and you can find me on LinkedIn at Megan Mazzocco, just like you have my name here in the frame.
Yeah.
And I'm on Instagram at Wellbeing X Design.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, I will have the pre-sale for the sleep system, 28 days to better
28
sleep,
days.
a
Yeah.
pragmatic guide to designing the sleep that you love. I will have that launched soon by the end of the month.
Okay. Yeah, and somewhere later down the road, I'd love for you to come back and we can talk about your book and
Oh,
some other specifics, going a little deeper into the brain and how sleep literally affects the neurons in the brain. Because I'm fascinated by all that the inner workings of the brain and
yeah.
how that works. Um, Final question for you, and I like to ask everyone this question as we go into closing. What does life mean to you?
Hmm. Life is a journey. Life is an opportunity. Life is a gift. Um, yeah, life is to create heaven on earth.
Mm, mm. Yeah, because a lot of people think that they have to wait until they leave the earth to go to heaven, wherever that is. But we're here for a reason, and you can create. We're all creators by nature.
Yeah.
So if we're here, all of us chose to come here. So if we're here, let's make the most of it and create heaven versus creating the living hell that most of us create for ourselves as we go to jobs that we don't like to go to. We go to jobs that we don't like. We stress and over what the boss is telling us. We don't like our boss. We're arguing with our coworkers. We're not getting along in the workplace. So we can remedy all of that with many of the steps or all of the steps that you've laid out so far in the talk that we've had. So yeah, so thank you for giving us all of that great information.
You're welcome.
And your explanation is perfect. Creating heaven right here on earth.
Yes.
Right here on earth. So,
Yes.
Megan, thank you so much for gracing the Kinetic Hour with all of your information. And to everyone, and please come back too when your book is released. I'd love to have you back to talk about that more, because in all honesty, sleep deprivation isn't talked about enough as a potential or just a cause of many of the illnesses that we have. You know, here in America, you name the disease here in America, we got it. There's hundreds of them, and too many people have all these illnesses, and many of them can be remedied through sleep.
Yeah.
Something as simple as sleep.
Yeah. It's
So,
beautiful.
yeah. So thank you for giving us all that information, and to everyone tuning in, thank you for tuning in to the Kinetic Hour. There's 1,000 different podcasts that you can be watching. So thank you for tuning in to the Kinetic Hour. So thank you to Megan Mazzocco, and until next time.
Thank you so much, Ken, and thank you. It was wonderful to be here, and I hope everyone is informed and inspired and a little liberated after our chat.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.